This is CBC Here and Now.
Today's schools are a much different animal than they were 15, 20, 25 years ago.
The RNC thwarts a possible knife attack against 3 teachers at this St. John's school. Why the teachers union says changes are needed.
Here we go again. Mother Nature is back with another storm.
But we're still digging out. More snow this evening, followed by freezing rain. And that's where we're going to begin this evening with the next big winter storm. The province called an emergency meeting today, and if necessary, it says it will open the Emergency Operations Centre. So tonight, our lead story is the forecast. Ashley.
Anthony, we are looking at a little bit of a shift in where that freezing rain was from yesterday, which is good news for the metro area. But we are still looking at that significant freezing rain down through the southern half of the Avalon as well as the southern half of the Burin Peninsula. Now, we are starting to see that snow move in. That's ahead of the warm front that's going to bring that freezing rain. But this is what I'm still thinking. As far as snowfall amounts go, heaviest snow still from the Port au Port Peninsula through to Green Bay, White Bay, with as much as 30 to 40 centimeters of snow falling by Saturday morning. Otherwise, as you head further east, you're going to mix in with some freezing rain, some ice pellets, and then again, that significant freezing rain likely from essentially most of eastern Newfoundland. We could see some power outages with this. The winds will pick up as we head into Saturday, but I'll break all of that down for you coming up.
Here and Now has learned that the RNC foiled a possible knife attack at a St. John's Junior High school. Some students were planning to go to Leary's Brook Junior High with knives inside their school bags. Police informed the school that some students were targeting 3 specific teachers. The principal called a staff meeting to explain the threat, but did not specify the identities of the targeted teachers. The president of the teachers union says that has since changed.
So those individuals were spoken to directly, individually, and separately from the general information that was passed along to the staff. Well, it's disturbing. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that. And unfortunately, it's something that's popping up more and more across the country. We know rates of school violence across the country are on the rise.
Now, we'll come back to this Here and Now exclusive. Later, Dean Ingram explains what he thinks needs to change to make schools safer for students and teachers. Now, late this afternoon, Here and Now attempted to contact the school district about this story, and we hope to have an update for you tomorrow. Well, a high school heist in Grand Falls, Windsor has drawn the attention of police. The school district says someone got into Exploits Valley High School last week and made copies of the midterm exams. Here Now's Garrett Barry with that story.
It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood high school movie. Break into the school, steal the exams, right in the middle of midterm week. Well, police have confirmed they are investigating an overnight break and enter here that allegedly took place between Tuesday and Wednesday last week.
Same story everywhere. Everybody broke in, took tests, sold them people.
Do you know how he broke in?
Master key.
How would he have gotten a master key to school?
Probably did something, went and copied it.
The school district says someone copied a number of exams from all grade levels and gave them to students. As a result, those exams are compromised. Students here met yesterday at an assembly where they were told about the incident, and word has also been spreading throughout the school.
There is a lot of talk inside the school. People are saying that that it's just like a lot of people have stole the exams, and then there's some people saying that there's girls that did it and guys that did it.
The school district says it will keep correcting exams, but is keeping a close eye on the results.
I don't really know what to think about it. It's kind of stupid.
Why do you say it's stupid?
Well, because we all studied and some of us had tutors, and then someone just stole the exams, and I was just kind of.
No one is saying much more about what happened here last week. Students and parents have been reluctant to talk, and neither the school district nor the police agreed to interviews today, both saying that their investigations are underway. In the meantime, the school district is offering an amnesty deal to students who may have seen their exams beforehand. If they come forward by the end of Friday, they won't get an academic penalty. Instead, the district says it is considering creating an alternate exam or test and throwing out the results of those old ones. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Well, to some breaking news now on a story that Here and Now has been covering for quite some time. Carla Foote has resigned from her position at the Rooms. She's moving back within government. Here and Now's Peter Cowan is live tonight in our newsroom. So, Peter, what can you tell us about Ms. Foote's new job?
Anthony, it's a step down from her previous job with government, and she's also taking a pay cut. Let's take a look at some of the details about her new position. She's going to be the Assistant Deputy Minister of Public Engagement. She's going to make $122,000 a year. That's about 10 grand less than she made when she was at the Rooms, which is the same salary that she had when she was with government previously. And the position that she's moving into has been vacant since December. Now, this move comes after much controversy. Back in the fall, you'll remember Foote's hiring as one of the top jobs at the Rooms was debated for weeks in the House of Assembly. A report ultimately found Minister Chris Mitchell-Moore guilty of gross mismanagement. He apologized but hasn't spoken publicly or answered any reporters' questions about the topic. At the heart of the issue, Foote's long ties to the Liberal Party. She was a Liberal staffer, and she's the daughter of former federal cabinet minister and current Lieutenant Governor Judy Foote. She was also hired without an interview and didn't even have a master's degree in the area when many of the people previously considered for this position have. Now, if government was thinking that this move might quieten the opposition, well, they may want to think again. We just got a statement from the PC leader, Ches Crosby, who says that the Liberals don't even care how this looks anymore. Anthony?
Thank you, Peter. That's Peter Cowan reporting live from our newsroom. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro has eliminated a senior position in an attempt to save money. But the Vice President of Corporate Services is not going away empty-handed. Dawn Daly receives a severance package of more than $500,000. Hydro says it has eliminated her position and combined her duties with those of Director of Regulatory Affairs. Daly has worked for Hydro and Nalcor for 17 years. Well, a St. John's man has been sentenced to more than 6 years in prison. The crime? He shot a woman with a rifle after she dared him to do it. Here Now's Mark Quinn has that story.
27-year-old Michael Hannaford shot a longtime friend in a dispute over $70, a debt the woman claimed he owed her for cocaine. Handing down his sentence, Judge Colin Flynn said, quote, he invited her to a meeting, she dared him to shoot her, he did. Flynn gave Hannaford 6 years and 30 days in prison. Hannaford had been charged with attempted murder for the 2018 shooting, but that charge was dropped. In December, he was convicted of several charges, including discharging a firearm with the intention of causing bodily harm. Speaking at his sentencing hearing, Hannaford apologized, saying he was sorry and takes full responsibility for what he did. Crown lawyer Paul Thistle said offenses that involve guns deserve serious sanctions. He said, quote, this is a dispute over the price of cocaine. He brought a loaded gun and shot her. It was a matter of luck that he didn't cause more serious injuries. Hannaford's lawyer Tim O'Brien said his client has sought treatment for drug abuse and is a good candidate for rehabilitation. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Former RNC officer Sean Kelly has been cleared of a charge of attempting to make an indecent phone call. A judge ruled the Crown did not prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. This afternoon, Kelly was acquitted in Corner Brook Provincial Court. Crown attorney Robbie Ashe said he knew the Crown's case was thin and he wasn't surprised by the decision. Kelly was convicted of a similar charge in February of 2015. That conviction related to incidents in the fall of 2012 that were connected to this current court issue. Ashe said Kelly hopes to get on with his life now that this matter has concluded.
This is Pickles. He's a 4-month-old kitten and he's in a bit of a pickle. He needs a forever home with lots of extra love and extra attention. We'll tell you why.
Well, do you remember the Signal Hill fence issue from last summer? The $65,000 structure was taken down almost as quickly as it was put up. And now we can tell you more about what was going on behind the scenes, what Parks Canada was saying privately before and during that very public controversy. Here Now's Jen White has this CBC Investigates report.
It came with no warning, no public consultation. A 7-foot-tall cedar fence next to the Signal Hill Visitor Center.
That view is part of who we are and stuff like that, so it's bizarre that it's there, and it's a shame.
We think it should go. It's blocking the most beautiful view in the city.
At the time, local Parks Canada staff said they weren't anticipating such strong reactions. We now know more about what was happening behind the scenes thanks to this Access to Information response, 370 pages of reports and emails. The project was originally pitched as a new visually appealing structure to control access to the tattoo performance field. Parks Canada said it would lead to more cash, more people paying to see tattoo performances, and the potential for concerts and other revenue-generating events on the field. The fence was built in July. Days later, Parks Canada got an email from MP Seamus O'Regan's office. We've got some complaints about a wooden fence on Signal Hill obstructing the views of the city. I believe it's gained some attention on social media. The next day, Parks Canada brought up a new reason for the fence: safety issues. Staff have reported numerous near-miss incidents in recent years, particularly during performances of the Signal Hill Tattoo when traffic is especially heavy. Drivers, they said, who are slowing down or stopping to see what's happening on the nearby field. The following morning, a tweet from Rick Mercer sent the commotion into overdrive. Pressure began to rise as the federal Environment Minister's office started asking questions. When local Parks Canada staff were asked about the number of traffic incidents, this response: "I don't believe we have record of actual incidents." A top Parks Canada official wrote, "I don't get how we thought something of this scale would not provoke a reaction. I don't see how it addresses safety." And this will be a gong show. Just 8 days after the fence was put up, there were instructions to take it down, noting publicly that the fence clearly missed the mark. No one from Parks Canada was made available for an interview, but in a statement, a spokesperson said Parks Canada will continue to explore more permanent options that will meet public safety requirements and improve the visitor experience, while not obstructing the view from that area of Signal Hill. The federal agency says that it will keep track of near-miss incidents going forward, and that while it doesn't normally do public consultations on projects like this one, that in the future, the public will be made aware of any projects happening here. Jen White, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, this will be a gong show is not ambiguous. Meanwhile, MP Seamus O'Regan has also commented about this story on social media. On Twitter, he wrote, "We need comprehensive public consultations from Parks Canada before any such changes are ever made again to our beloved Signal Hill." Okay, to a completely different story.
Yes.
Joined by Carolyn Stokes. And what's up? I saw your.
You saw the teaser a little bit earlier, and I know that you're a cat person, right?
I'm not going to end up adopting a cat at the end of this, am I?
Well,
please. I can only handle so many.
Prepare to have your heart melted is
Okay.
all I will say. This
Right.
next story is about a kitten named Pickles. He's in need of a home, but as you'll see, he's no ordinary kitten.
Pickles has a congenital condition called tibial hemimalea. 2 of the bones in his back legs didn't form properly, and so it's caused his back legs to actually curve upside down. And so he can't actually bear weight on his back legs because of the curvature and because of the lack of tibia bones that should be there. So this is a normal animal's hind legs. And Pickles, on the other hand, was born without the tibia. So you can see there's only 1 bone here where there should be 2. It's twisted his feet, so his feet are more or less on upside down.
So he doesn't seem like it's hurting, the condition is hurting him or anything?
It doesn't hurt him at all, and it's all that he's ever known, so he's learned to adapt to just walking on 2 legs. It will be very important that he stays nice and lean because he is taking all of that weight and putting it solely on the front legs themselves. So the big thing with Pickles is you have to be adaptable. He's quite good at figuring out his environment, but things like coming up the stairs can be a little bit trickier for him. So adding some extra traction, some rugs, some mats, that sort of thing will help him, be able to get around a bit easier. He'll figure it out on his own, but anything that we can do to make his life a little bit easier is all better for him.
Would there be any extra medical expenses that you foresee for him?
We don't anticipate him having to have any, further medical needs. As long as he can avoid any injury to those front legs, his back legs will just continue to grow as normal, and he'll learn to move his center of gravity and get around as if everything was perfect.
I fostered a few kitties with some special needs in the past, and when he came in, we were just trying him at home just to see if he could do everyday things. At first it was a little difficult for him getting up over the stairs, but he managed to go down over them, and now he can do it all on his own.
What's his personality like?
He's goofy. He loves boxes. He loves to jump in boxes. He's very mischievous. In my opinion, he's not any different than any other cat. Just because he has a disability, I think he deserves a chance just as any other cat that's normal and healthy.
It's hard for people to see animals with, deformities. The first thing that you think is that they're suffering. And our opinion of suffering is not necessarily what they're feeling. Just because Pickles looks different on the outside doesn't mean that he's in pain or that he's hurting. And that was one of the biggest things that we needed to determine when he came into our care was, does he have a good quality of life? Because if he can have a good quality of life free of pain, then he deserves that.
I think he would do good with a family with kids. He likes the company of other cats and dogs in the household. He wasn't too fond of my dogs at first, but he's grown to love them. He rubs up against them now, and they can groom him, and my other cat grooms him. So I think he would like a home with other animals and some kids.
So when will Pickles be available for adoption?
Pickles should be going up for adoption this week. He just had his neuter surgery last week, and we wanted to give him about a week to recover from that. So I anticipate that this weekend, Pickles will be available down at the SPCA St. John's. He really is a special cat. He's really proven to us how a deformity or a disability doesn't need to slow you down. In his mind, this is all that he's ever known, and he's just as feisty and playful as any other kitten.
So feisty.
Yeah.
And Dr. Harvey was saying that as Pickles gets older, he'll just walk around on his two front legs, and his hind legs will be up in the air.
Still seems to have no problem moving.
Oh yeah, fast. He's fast.
What's the number?
He does go up for adoption
Pickles.
at the St. John's SPCA tomorrow, so I'm sure he'll have no trouble finding a home.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
There are now more international students here at MUN, students like Solomon from Egypt, than there are citizens in the town of Bishops Falls. I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
As I mentioned earlier, the province called an emergency meeting today to discuss the impending storm. Towns are encouraged to review their emergency management plans as well. Residents are advised to get prepared for this. Now, the advice is to prepare an emergency kit that will last you at least 72 hours. And you should brace for the possibility of power outages as well. Prolonged freezing rain on the Avalon as well as the Burin Peninsulas are a concern this time around. The province says it will open its emergency operations center if that becomes necessary. And despite the precautions on the Avalon today, it was just another day at the office. You can see crews continue to widen roads. We're still cleaning up over what's left from last month's storm.
We're going to be in this mode probably for the remainder of the winter. I mean, we're going to be having dust, snowfalls, more snowfalls, and but we're going to continue working on getting back. We're getting there, but it's going to be a long time to get back to a normal winter. That amount of snow in one fall really, and then having more snow following it is really challenging.
This weather update is brought to you by the NL 511 app. Know before you go. Check road conditions, highway cameras, and the provincial plow tracker with the NL 511 app.
So Mayor Danny Breen talking about the snow and the winter being here for the rest of the winter, and Ashley's going, yes, yes.
Am I?
Kind of happy.
I love this.
It's a great winter for a meteorologist.
It is. I'm learning so much too, which is really wonderful, being, like the first significant, I mean, I've forecasted here before, but it's really nice.
It's been a while since a winter like this has happened.
Apparently, yes. Yeah, it definitely has.
Okay, so today I thought I'd go for a walk. It looked sunny outside. It was freezing.
It was gorgeous though.
It was pretty, but it was cold.
Yes, it was. It was chilly today. We only reached a high near -4 here in St. John's. Similar temperatures right across the board. A little cooler up through Labrador in the minus double digits. And Lab City sitting at about -14 now, because even though we saw that sunshine, there was breezy winds, and those wind chills are feeling closer to the minus teens tonight, and that will generally continue. So here's a look at the current satellite and radar. We're starting to see that snow edge in, and we'll continue to do so as we head through the night tonight. We do have a number of warnings in place. We'll get right into it. Winter storm warnings along the northern peninsula as you head towards the interior and central. Those are snowfall warnings. Special weather statements along the south coast and up through the rest of central, essentially. And then we've got those freezing rain warnings in place for the Burin Peninsula as well as most of the Avalon. Now, heading through the night tonight, we're going to see that snow intensify as we head after midnight. Certainly into the early morning hours is when we'll really start to get into some of that heavier snow. And then by the time the early morning rolls around, we're going to be looking at that potential for some ice pellets already for the Burin Peninsula as well as the southern Avalon. So here's where you'll be sitting temperature-wise. A couple more degrees dropping tonight, and those winds are going to stay generally light. Nothing really to speak of. -21 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, -33 for Lab City under light winds and clear skies. So definitely a chilly night for you. And then we've got those calm conditions as well, pretty much for the rest of Labrador. Now, as we head through the day tomorrow, that warm front's going to continue to track a little bit further north. So that's when we're going to get into really anywhere where you're seeing this pink is the potential for some freezing rain and some ice pellets through the afternoon, certainly into the evening hours. And then eventually those temperatures are really going to climb, and then we're going to see things change over to rain for the Avalon as well as the Burin Peninsula into the early morning hours. Showed you this a little bit earlier, but want to show it one more time. The heaviest snowfall will be for the Port-au-Port Peninsula through to Green Bay, White Bay. You're looking at anywhere from 30 to 40 centimeters of snow, significantly less as you're heading towards the eastern portion of the island. And again, where we're seeing, that's 10 to 20 centimeters through Gander or even Corner Brook, you're still going to see some ice pellets mixed in with that. And temperatures will be sitting in the minus single digits through the day, but they're going to climb as we head through the night. Even into the early morning hours for St. John's, you're looking at temperatures sitting around 8 degrees through the day. And then as we head up through the Labrador, you're pretty much going to sit this one out. The Straits, you'll see some snow, but nothing too much. So here's the timeline for the St. John's metro area. By the time 9 a.m. rolls around, you're looking at about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. That will change through the ice pellets into the afternoon, bringing accumulations closer to about 15 centimeters. I'd say by 3, 4 o'clock, we'll start to see a transition to freezing rain that will continue into the evening hours and then eventually change over to rain as you note those temperatures up to about 9 9 degrees. And then overnight, those winds really ramp up. By morning, we're looking at winds gusting upwards of 100 to 110 kilometers per hour, hence these warnings for there. So that's a look at your forecast. We'll look towards the weekend or into the weekend further when I come back.
Thanks, Ashu. Details tonight on the pay package for Memorial University's new president, $2.5 million over 5 years. Terry Roberts checks out how the pay and the perks are going over on campus.
Meet self-proclaimed student activist Matt Barter.
And was involved in a lot of rallies around that.
When Vianne Timmins was named MUN's new president in December, Barter went looking for the details.
I was outraged about what I discovered.
An access to information request by Barter found the university paid nearly $150,000 for the external search, and that Timmins' contract is nearly a mirror image of the outgoing president. Barter was hoping MUN would tighten the purse strings.
This does not represent that. This represents, the status quo.
Timmins will receive a base pay of $450,000, an $18,000 yearly housing allowance, $1,000 a month for a car, a yearly research grant, travel perks, and more. In a time of budget cuts and hints of a tuition hike, Barter says MUN could have done better.
Just because other universities in Canada are paying outrageous, lavish salaries to these top executives does not mean that MUN should do the same.
If Barter was hoping for outrage, he won't hear it from Memorial's student union.
It'll look a little bit bad to be reducing the salary now that an Indigenous woman is taking the role after it being what it is now.
Budget cuts and spending shortfalls are the union's bigger issue.
There's lots of profs, I'm sure, worried about, at what point is there going to be a big safety hazard or a big, someone getting injured.
The key thing, I think, is that Memorial, after conducting a good professional review, found a top flight candidate.
And this MUN alumni and public policy specialist says only a handful of people are qualified for such a job. Finding that person takes time and money.
The numbers, by my understanding of it, sound about right for what you would expect at that level. The costs are reasonable.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, 2 high-profile politicians, an MP and cabinet minister, as well as a former MP, were on campus at MUN today. Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott are at MUN to take part in a discussion tonight about navigating party discipline.
I'm hopeful under a minority government situation that there can be more collaborative decision-making.
Wilson-Raybould and Philpott held a Q&A with some university students. The 2 former members of the federal Liberals made headlines last year after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau kicked them out of caucus, and he expelled them over their public opposition of the party's handling of the SNC-Lavalin criminal case. They'll be talking about their experience at tonight's event, but they also took some questions today from MUN students.
To know their stories and their challenges in their House of Commons, and how did they, what inspired them to be in this position, really inspires us, and it also helped us to learn and know more about politics.
I just don't think we have enough in place to support victims.
Reaction to Killing Time, CBCNL's documentary about Philip Pinn and our criminal justice system. Reliable sources tell Here and Now that the RNC discovered a possible knife attack here at Leary's Brook Junior High. The targets were 3 teachers, and the NLTA is just getting the details. Well, to our top story again, the RNC has uncovered a potential knife attack at Leary's Brook Junior High in St. John's. The details are murky, but it appears some students were planning to go to school with knives in their school bags. Also, there was a school meeting in which all the staff was informed about this, but the 3 teachers who were the targets, well, initially they were not informed. Dean Ingram is the president of the NLTA, and he joins us now from Montreal. Mr. Ingram, what do you know about this situation with the teachers at Leary's Brook?
Well, thank you, Anthony. I did make a point of speaking with the school administration as recently as this morning, and while there certainly was information brought forward by the RNC, the administration did share with the teachers all they knew at that time. I understand subsequently, too, that the administration have indeed spoken with the individuals that were involved, and it went from there. So again, to speak with the administration, they did, the school administration, with consultation with the district and other authorities, followed all procedures as they should have been followed, and subsequent to that, our staff have reached out and have been in contact with the members of the school, teacher in the school, to ensure that they're aware of what supports are available should they choose to avail them.
All right. Now, we can never know what children are seriously determined to do, but what do you make of the nature of a threat like this? When the police actually tell the principal, we've uncovered this.
Well, it's disturbing. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that. And unfortunately, it's something that's popping up more and more across the country. We know rates of school violence across the country are on the rise. It's certainly a growing concern. In fact, this year, without knowing exactly what the details were, there certainly seems to be somewhat of a parallel situation to one we had in our school, one of our schools prior to Christmas. It's something that has to be taken very seriously. There's no discrepancy with that. We know that every child in the school system deserves and should have access to a quality public school education.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, I think we also have to recognize and realize that it's critically important as well that while every child has the right to access to that education, there's also right, and dare I say, responsibility on the districts and the government to ensure that the environment is there, that education provided in a safe learning environment for students, but certainly for teachers and everyone in the school system as well.
The point to actually conclude this on is we talk about safe schools. It's a teacher's responsibility to make a classroom safe for learning to happen, but now we seem to be talking about making schools safe for the teachers to be able to teach.
Yes. And there's lots of disruptions that occur. These are things that aren't new, but the intensity of those situations, again, not just in Newfoundland, across the country, are enhancing. And we really believe there's a strong need, a demonstrable need, to have a complete, thorough, and independent review of the allocations that are present in our schools. School administrator allocations, school counselor allocations, classroom allocation, access to adequate student assistance supports. All those individuals could add to ensuring that proactive measures are taken, rather than, unfortunately, with the school system right now, all too often these situations are dealt with in a reactive manner.
Okay.
It sounds like these are things we have to look at.
All right, Mr. Ingram, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You're kindly welcome.
Last night, we brought you the story of Philip Pinn, a St. John's man who was convicted of killing his friend, but who also has spent much of his adult life in prison. The story probed the question, can someone like Philip Pinn change? Can he be rehabilitated? Well, there's another side to this story, the victims. And that's what we're tackling tonight. How do victims of criminals feel about the correction system? Do they feel protected? Do they feel justice is served? Aline Vlasianu is the Executive Director of the Canadian Resource Centre for the Victims of Crime, and she joins us now from Ottawa. So first, I'd like to get your reaction to the documentary Killing Time. What were you thinking and feeling as you were watching it?
I think one of my first emotions was just kind of a sadness because, you know, I was seeing a human being that was kind of telling us about his journey and what he had been through and how long he had spent in prison and just how little, you know, came of it. He didn't feel that he had been rehabilitated or anything like that, but rather just spent time incarcerated.
What do you hear from victims about that, about rehabilitating criminals? Do they think rehabilitation in that environment is realistic?
I think most victims are pretty cognizant of the fact that even when offenders do go to prison, the rehabilitation aspect, while, you know, corrections and parole say, you know, they're rehabilitating offenders, I don't think victims feel as though offenders are rehabilitated when they come out. I think a lot of victims are actually worried when offenders are set out on parole and whatnot because of the fact that they don't feel like that offender was rehabilitated and there is the chance that they might reoffend. And I think most victims simply just don't want more victims. Better programming is definitely necessary. I think, what exists right now is kind of the bare minimum to rehabilitate. I think stronger links with therapy and just kind of getting to the root of why that offender is offending. Not to mention prevention, just even from the beginning, like not getting to that point of being incarcerated, but rather addressing the root causes of the crime. It's addressing things like poverty. I think it's addressing things like education. I think Philip even mentioned that he saw his parents committing crimes just to kind of survive, and he kind of got into it himself because of that.
And the documentary, looked at being caught up in the justice system from the criminal's perspective, but victims, innocent victims, also get dragged into that system. How do they navigate and then get out of that system?
As a victim, I think it's very hard to navigate the criminal justice system. I just don't think we have enough in place to support victims when they're going through this. As you can imagine, they're grief stricken, they're traumatized, they're feeling victimized. And then to have to deal with this process that's kind of hazy, nobody's really explaining things to them per se, they don't necessarily have anybody on their side.
Very few offenders actually go to jail for life. At some point, they're getting out, they're getting back into the population. What does your organization believe should happen to make victims feel safer?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is listening to victims throughout the process, throughout the criminal justice process. I think people, so the trial happens, that's over, but then people forget about the post-trial agencies that victims have to deal with. So parole hearings and things like that, victims are entitled, as if they're registered, they're entitled to give, their statements throughout the process. So just listening to those statements, making sure they factor in what the victim's saying when the offender is within the institution, making sure that we are really rehabilitating folks and not just saying we are and kind of letting them out, putting them back in the exact same spot that they were in before. It's very hard. I think even Philip mentioned it. It's very hard to be kind of put in the same lifestyle, but told not to do what he's been doing for a lifetime.
Well, thank you so much for making time for us and giving us the victim's perspective on all this.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's Aline Vlasianu in Ottawa.
Well, after a day's delay, the first Canadian evacuation flight from Wuhan, China is finally on its way to Canada. 176 people are being brought home on a plane that was chartered by the federal government. And those Canadians are not alone. About 50 other Canadians are following on an American evacuation plane.
Between these two flights, approximately 2/3 of the Canadians seeking to be evacuated from Wuhan would have left for Canada. Of course, that means that a second Canadian charter will be necessary. That plane is currently scheduled to depart Wuhan on the 10th of February and to land back in Canada on the 11th of February.
A few people didn't arrive for today's Canadian flight, but everyone who did underwent strict screening by both Chinese and Canadian authorities before they could board. Health checks will continue throughout the flight. Anyone who falls ill will be taken to hospital in Vancouver when the plane stops for refueling. The flight's final destination is a military base in Ontario. Well, today the World Health Organization is speaking out against the violation of a human right. February 6th is the International Day of Zero Tolerance for female genital mutilation, something that impacts 200 million women and girls today who live in 30 countries. While the brutal practice is carried out in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, there are survivors here in this province, and you are about to hear from one. But first, a warning: you may find the details of her story disturbing.
I am a survivor. That's what we call ourselves. I'm a survivor of female genital mutilation. I was taken through the type 3, which is the worst type, because they cut off everything and then they seal their labia majoris together. And that happens when you are between the ages of 5 and 10. So I was cut when I was 6 years old. Just 6 of us lined up, and I was the last among the 6, so like I watched every girl being cut, and I could hear their wails, and that's all I understood. And I still recall that. It's like it was yesterday. To date, if I get the smell of blood, my mind actually goes back to that day. Many girls actually die because of overbleeding, but only that people don't mix the death to this. They will not say it was because of FGM. There are all these unfounded narratives holding it in place, but the main reason is the control of women. Newfoundlands are very, very generous, and they're welcoming immigrants now into their province. Can you imagine of a young girl who was cut when she was 6 years old and she doesn't know, and then she comes to these schools and discovers she is actually a survivor when she is, let's say, mid-school or high school? How are we prepared to support that girl, and she starts thinking there's something wrong with her, or all this and that? Canada doesn't condone FGM, and it's against, the law, it's there, but if we don't talk about it, there will be all this silence, and people can do all sorts of things when there's silence. So we need to open up the conversation and begin discussing it, and just make people aware that there are survivors and there are girls who could be at risk.
Well, to Canadian news now. Senators are hoping to fast-track a bill that's aimed at ensuring mental health support for jurors traumatized by the details of very difficult crimes.
These experiences stay with you for the rest of your life.
When you face trials like the Victoria Stafford or the Bernardo case, or these cases are much, much, much more difficult, but anyone can suffer from PTSD.
Well, as it stands now, the criminal code bars former jurors from ever discussing what went on during jury deliberations, even with mental health professionals. Many former jurors report lasting distress from what they hear and see in trials, with nowhere to turn to address their fears and anxiety. The Senate bill would change that. The senators believe their bill has wide support and could pass through the Senate by spring.
The weather update is brought to you by Beltone, your partner in better hearing.
Okay, Ashley, I'm buying more salt than my in-laws use in a Jig's dinner because of what's coming. How much freezing rain are we actually going to get?
Yeah, so here in the metro area, we're probably looking anywhere 5 to 10 is a good bet, but we could see as much as 15 millimeters of freezing rain.
So wondering what unit you were using. Okay,
yeah,
this is that.
It's just millimeters.
Yeah.
But something to keep in mind, you know, southern areas of the Avalon will probably see 15 to 25 millimeters of rain, and with that ice accretion, we could see some power accretion. We could see some power outages. So that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. Now, taking a look at the future tracker, after we see that freezing rain, we get into the milder air, and temperatures are actually going to jump right up overnight, again, around 9 degrees. So that, with the melting ice, is even a recipe for some power outages as well. So it's a good idea just to be prepared just in case. But as we head through the day, once we get those warmer temperatures, this cold front sweeps through and it's going to drop the temperatures quite dramatically through the afternoon. And we are still looking at that snow continuing for most of the areas right into Sunday morning, tapering to flurries though at that point. So here's where we'll be sitting in the afternoon. Again, your temperatures overnight will be into the single digits and then dropping about 10 to as much as 12 degrees in some cases into the afternoon on Saturday. So everything that does fall will freeze through the day. So we're looking at quite calm up through Labrador, minus 22 for Lab City, Happy Valley, Goose Bay looking at minus 17, and Nain at minus 18. Now those winds are going to stay strong through the day on Saturday. We do have those wind warnings I showed you a little bit earlier. They're going to pick up overnight Friday, continue through the day on Saturday. That's why we have those wind warnings. Gusts about 100 to 110 kilometers per hour, certainly not out of the question. So here's the timeline. Saturday morning, you're seeing those gusts out of the southwest. Bonavista could see upwards of 100 kilometers per hour as well. Through the day on Saturday, they're going to stay quite strong, and then eventually they'll start to ease as we head through the day on, or at least the overnight on Saturday into Sunday. Their gusts are going to still stay quite breezy, though, anywhere from 50 to about 60 kilometers per hour through the day. So once that cold front moves through, those temperatures are going to stay cold for a little bit, or at least a little bit chilly, and then our next one moves in. The next couple of weeks, or at least the next week or so, is looking like one storm after the other, unfortunately, but it is February. That's generally what happens. This one looks like a transition again over to rain by the time Tuesday morning rolls around, back into snow in behind it, and then we'll see another round, it looks like, through the day on Wednesday. So certainly something to keep an eye on over the next couple of days. So here's a look at your temperatures. Roller coaster ride, absolutely. We're looking at temperatures in the minus single digits into Sunday, dipping overnight to double minus digits, and then back up again into Monday and Tuesday. Those temperatures hovering around the 0 degree mark, or at least in the single digits by the time Tuesday rolls around. Now for Central Newfoundland, you're looking at that snow continuing through Saturday. Sunday looks nice. Monday, a little bit of cloud cover. But again, those temperatures up and then down. Tuesday night, it looks like temperatures will drop into the minus double digits. Now for Western Newfoundland, generally gray, it looks like, climbing as we head towards Tuesday to the 0 degree mark, and then up through Labrador. It's quiet, but chilly into the minus teens. By the time Monday and Tuesday rolls around, that's when we're going to look at that better chance of some flurries. And then climbing to the minus single digits by Tuesday. Now for Western Labrador, you're looking at sunshine again, pretty much the same forecast, but your temperatures just a little milder than what we're seeing over the next little bit, around minus 10 for Tuesday.
I was sort of thinking about how much rain we're actually going to get, and the ice sort of digging now, how do I plan that shoveling? On entertainment of a different sort, the East Coast Music Award nominations are out, and a Newfoundland artist is one of the musicians leading the way for nominations. Tim Baker, a frequent guest on Here and Now, the former lead singer of Hey Rosetta, has 7 nominations, 7 including Album of the Year and Folk Recording of the Year. Other nominees include Carolina East, Ian Foster and Nancy Hines, Chris Kirby and Rachel Cousins. Shani Ganuk will receive a Lifetime Achievement Award. The ECMA week kicks off in St. John's on April 29th.
Now, I showed you this picture yesterday, but I want to tell you exactly where it is. So I'll tell you where this is too when we come back after the break.
All right, a couple minutes over tonight because of women's hockey, but just about done for this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at the photo.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So those are actually moose tracks, and it was taken in Lewisport. Roger Primer sent us that wonderful shot there. Thank you so much for sending that in. And if you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. But I do have another photo I want to share with you. Those are my parents.
The Brawweilers.
The Brawweilers. It's their 38th wedding anniversary.
That'd be a good sitcom. The Brawweilers.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Yep.
I didn't send them flowers, so I figured this
now
is your gift.
Yep. We were delayed because of women's basketball. I think I misspoke.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're 3 minutes late, and this is usually when you flip over the shopping channel, 3 minutes later, won't make that much of a big difference, right?
Not at all.
And tomorrow, we'll see who's celebrating anniversaries. And Friday already.
That's already Friday.
And we'll talk about snow strategies.
Perfect.
Again.
And clearing.
Yeah. We'll see you then.
Good night.